Call the village board meeting for the Village of Cary for Tuesday, September 6, 2016 to order with roll call, please.
Dudek.
Here.
McAlpine.
Here.
Cavelli. Here. Kraus.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Thank you. And before we do that, I'll entertain a motion to allow trustee Jim Kostler to attend tonight's meeting via video conferencing due to a work commitment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome back, Jim.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, stand up, Jim.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We now move to the open forum where the public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda. I have a couple people that have signed in that I believe are speaking on something that's on the agenda. Is there anybody else that would like to address the village board on something that's not on the agenda? None said. We'll go ahead and close open forum. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the August 23rd, 2016 village board meeting.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Chapman.
Yes.
Kraus.
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes.
Dudek.
Yes.
Cavelli.
Yes.
Kostler.
Yes,
Thank you. I have a few things on the mayor's report. First and foremost, I want to congratulate Jacob Reif, our assistant village administrator. He got married over the weekend. We're awaiting the pictures of he and his bride, Nikki. They have postponed their honeymoon for later this year. I believe you were saying around Thanksgiving.
To make sure you didn't miss
So,
the meeting.
He's so dedicated, he doesn't like to miss board meetings. So that's the kind of guy he is, right?
Wow.
I'll have pictures at the next meeting.
All
Okay.
right.
All right.
That'll be great. Thanks, Jake, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Now we have an employee recognition for Corey Hauk from the Public Works Department. He was unable to attend the meeting tonight, but he's been with the Village of Cary for 10 years.
Wow.
We thank him for his service, and we look forward to his continued success with the Village of Cary. And then we have the recognition of 3 of our police explorers. They are Dylan Cost, Brett Dalton, and Will Elliman. You can join me and the Chief of Police up in front, please.
Yeah. I know. How do I get in that club?
I know the one like this.
We'd just like to take some. We'll take some opportunity to acknowledge the dedication and commitment of Dylan Cost. He's to my left, and then my far left would be Brett Dalton. A little bit about these young men are that they spend considerable time assisting the police department in different events. I believe that you are both veterans of the Hill Striders marathon or half marathon, and then certainly the cruise nights. So we spent some time together.
Oh, yeah.
They're dedicated to the efforts of the post. And a little bit about Dylan is that you're going to North Central College.
Yes, sir.
You were a May graduate of the Cary Grove High School, and that you play lacrosse.
Yes, sir.
Brett is also a Cary Grove graduate in May, an auto enthusiast. That's what they've termed you as, and that would be why you were more than likely hanging around the cruise night. Both of them have spent four years or so, well, maybe a little over 4 years. With the Post, and they really do help us a great deal. They're exceptional young men, and we wanted to recognize them for their commitment and dedication to the Police Explorer Post. So with that, I'm going to give them their awards, which are significant. They're huge plaques.
Photo opportunity.
Two things we always have to do here is you have to acknowledge your parents that are in the audience, number one, and then number two, allow them to have photos, so you can come up here and take some photos. You want to introduce your parents?
Come on up. We're all family here.
This is my mom, Lisa Cost, and my dad, Mike Cost. Thank you for everything. Love you.
This is my mother over here to the right. Her name's Vicky Dalton. And then I got my father in the back in the green. His name's Timothy Dalton.
And there was a third person that we were going to recognize, but he is attending college outside of the state. It's Will Elliman. He also spent a little over 4 years with you. I believe he held a position as sergeant in the post, and he's attending college in Indiana, majoring in computer science, if I remember correctly. So we want to acknowledge his commitment and dedication to our post as well, and this was a delayed recognition from August. So thank you very much for coming. We appreciate your dedication and service to our post. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
One time.
Chief,
who runs the program in the department? And if a resident wanted to get involved in the Police Explorers, how would they do that?
We have a couple Explorer advisors. Greg Rutzen, our detective, is one of them. Josh Victor is another one. I believe Scott Nadenoff? No? Who? You were, okay. So, yeah, they can contact someone within the department. I'm certain that Greg Rutzen or Josh Victor, who's the school resource officer, could direct them in the proper area to participate.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, moving on to our next, we have a proclamation for Rail Safety Week. Whereas in Illinois, 140 crashes occurred at railroad and 31 fatalities during 2015. And whereas Illinois, in conjunction with Minnesota, Wisconsin, Indiana, and Michigan, have designated the week of September 11th through the 17th, 2016 as Rail Safety Week to bring attention to the safety issues related to railroad right-of-ways. And whereas 285 Illinois law enforcement agencies have committed to participating in the 2016 campaign to educate the public in enforcing rail safety laws. And whereas in 2015, law enforcement dedicated 2,764 staff hours to educational and enforcement efforts, issuing 1,745 warnings and 1,210 citations. And whereas Illinois Bruce Rauner has proclaimed September 11th through the 17th, 2016 as Rail Safety Week in Illinois by issuing a proclamation on May 24th, 2016, and encouraging all residents to recognize the importance of rail safety education. And whereas Cary Police Department will be participating in this important safety endeavor. Now, therefore, I, Mark Koenig, Mayor of the Village of Cary, recognize Rail Safety Week and proclaim that all citizens of the Village of Cary recognize the importance of rail safety education for their safety to obey all safety laws. Dated the 6th day of September 2016. And one more for the Constitution Week. Whereas September 17th, 2016 marks the 229th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation, and where it's fitting and proper to officially recognize the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Mark Koenig, Mayor of the Village of Cary, do hereby proclaim September 17th through the 23rd, 2016, to be Constitution Week in the Village of Cary, and ask our residents to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787, dated the 6th day of September 2016. Great document. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 1 through 9. Is there anybody that had anything they want to take off?
I'd like to pull number 8. I just had a quick few questions I wanted to ask the chief.
And I would like to pull number 6 and vote separately on that one.
Number 6, separate? Okay, let me rephrase this. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 1 through 5, 7, and 9.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
All right, hang on. Yeah. McAlpine?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Dudek?
Yes.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Cosler?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Rick, did you say 6 and 7 or just 6?
Just
It's just 6.
Oh,
Jeff
okay,
had
thank
8.
you.
Jeff had 8.
Didn't hear you.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda item number 6.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
All right, hang on.
I'm sorry, there was a discussion. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
A video gaming license for 750 Ristica.
I really don't have any discussion. I just want to remain consistent that I have not supported video game in the Village of Cary, so I will vote no.
I thought that might have been it. Thank you. Any other discussion on item number 6? Roll call, please.
All right, hang on. McAlpine?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Dudek?
No.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Cosler?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
I wanted to just make one note before we go to item 8. So the 750 Cucina approvals are through the village system. However, as we talked about at the committee of the whole meeting, we are still deliberating at final board level on a revolving loan fund package. It's tied to the village policy. So that'll trail back to the board as soon as possible thereafter. Thank you.
I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda item number 8.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, trustee Kraus.
I just, in looking at these things that we can fine for, I didn't see anything about texting or talking on the phone. Is that something that the state?
That's correct. It's a moving violation. We can't
Okay.
assign that to administrative adjudication.
Okay.
How about walking and texting?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that we could impede someone's ability to walk and text. However, I would say Pokemon, if I was to do that too,
Only if
I would
they're
include
chewing
that with that.
Okay.
Go.
So, yeah, that would be the reason, is because we don't have the authority to regulate those at our administrative adjudication process.
You really need to target those people. I see everybody's doing it still.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just ridiculous, and it's so
If I had a
dangerous.
beater, I'd lock them up and let them hit the wood bumper.
It's one of the more difficult violations to prove. Interesting law, difficult to prove.
Yeah, and there are a bunch of campaigns going on right now. They're trying. It's just, you're right, it's a problem.
And technology is working to give you a tool right now, and it's in development. It's by the same people who make the breathalyzers, and it's like a phonalyzer, and it will allow you to track
Determine
the
if
activity
it's-
without determining any personal information. So it's coming.
I just have a quick question.
Sure.
For social hosting, would you guys write under the alcohol, sale, delivery of alcohol to intoxicated or unlawful persons under 21?
Yeah, we could. We don't have specific social hosting, but we do have
Okay.
a provision that addresses the gift or delivery of alcoholic liquor to those under 21.
And, I mean, can we increase that fine? Is that possible to like 500?
I think we could go up to 750 if you want. I think
I
that's
mean,
the ordinance
I know that that's
amount.
a big, problem with social hosting, and a lot of people don't take it serious enough. So I know a lot of agencies are increasing their fines to try and, make it more of a,
Interestingly enough, we don't tend to go to a lot of those here. No, but it can be a problem. I agree with you there.
okay.
Was there any other questions in regard to this?
Was there direction to change that fine or not?
So we'll bring back some data and look at it at committee
Okay.
if you'd like to make that decision.
Okay. Well, if we're looking at
From
that
other
one, then
communities.
can we also look at the, I thought the cannabis, or was there
We're
a
good, we'll
paraphernalia?
have to looking at potential for a local ordinance as it relates to the civil violation from the state amount. So we'll be looking at that also.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Kraus,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Cosler,
Yes.
Cavelli,
Yes.
Duda.
Yes.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 01609-01, granting the conditional use and various yard building setback, increase the maximum height, and increase the maximum ground floor area for a detached garage for the property located at 405 Mildred.
So moved.
Second.
While Brian is getting the slides ready, this is on your agenda as an item for separate action because it was not unanimously approved at the zoning planning appeals level by a unanimous vote, so that's why it's on your agenda. Brian?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mayor. Proposed this evening is a request for a conditional use for detached garage and variations for front yard setback height and ground floor area for the property at 405 Mildred Avenue. As proposed, the property has an existing detached garage which sits between the house and Mildred Avenue. These properties are different than other properties within the village where their front yards are also kind of act as the rear yards for access to the roadway as they front onto the Fox River. Proposal is to expand the existing two-car garage by adding on to the front of the structure towards Mildred Avenue. Would be increasing the size of the garage from 456 square feet to 816 square feet. This slide shows the proposed improvements as far as the completed project. Would add height to the structure as well as the front portion so that in addition to car storage on the ground floor, there will be additional attic storage provided in the loft area above the primary storage space. This slide shows the proposed improvements compared to the rest of the neighborhood along Mildred Avenue. There are several properties which are existing non-conforming as far as village's requirements for setbacks and detached garage sizes in this area. Some of the garages in this location, as you can see by the slide, project into the required 30-foot setback along Mildred Avenue. Some actually cross over property lines into the right-of-way. Just due to the history or the age of the subdivision from the standpoint. The property in question is highlighted on this aerial photograph, and as you can see, the properties that are immediately to its north and south have similarly constructed garages. The slide, the lower left-hand portion of the slide, you can see the existing condition with the existing garage located in the center of the two neighboring garages. The proposed condition would be to add a second story to that. Basically, this representation was provided by the petitioner to show the context of the proposed garage in comparison to two existing garages on properties immediately next to it. The table shows the height of the top of the structure and the midpoint. Midpoint height would be 7 feet or 17 feet 3 inches. The maximum permitted by code is 15 feet for height. That would require a variation, but again, is similar to the property located at 413 Mildred Avenue, which did receive a variance for its height. And then the ground floor area as proposed is 816 square feet, which is similar or less than the garage provided at 401 Mildred Avenue, which is about 960 square feet. All three of the garages have similar setbacks ranging from 13 to 15 feet in this location. Again, the variations that are being requested is a front yard setback variation. By code, the required setback is 30 feet. The existing garage is non-conforming in the fact that it doesn't encroach into that required setback at 28 feet and change. Proposes to setback 13 feet, 13.3 feet. The ground floor area, again, would be exceeding the 600 square feet, so a variation to up to 816 square feet for the ground floor of the structure. And then the building height would be an additional 2 feet 3 inches above what is permitted by code as measured to the midpoint of the roof. Zoning ordinance provides various standards that need to be complied with in order to consider for a variation, which are highlighted in the slide. Generally, the hardship on the property was caused by unique circumstances relating to the land and not to the general conditions of the district. Applicant has not taken any action that has caused the extraordinary condition and made it substantially worse than otherwise might have been. And the relief proposed will not alter the character of the locality, are a few highlights of those variation standards. Likewise, the conditional use ordinance provides standards for conditional uses as the garage requires conditional use approval. Use would not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare, will not substantially diminish and impair property values within the immediate vicinity, not contribute to an overburdening of municipal services, is inconsistent with the policies and land use maps in the village's comprehensive plan. On August 11th, the ZBA held a public hearing to review the requests. Based on a review of the documentation provided and testimony provided at that hearing, the ZBA recommended approval of the following motion by a vote of 5-1. Approval of a conditional use for a detached garage, variance to reduce the required building setback from 30 feet to 13 feet, variance to increase the maximum height for the detached garage from 15 feet to 17.25 feet, and a variance to increase the maximum ground floor area for a detached garage from 600 square feet to 816 square feet for the property located at 405 Mildred Avenue. The petitioner is also here so they can answer any additional questions the board may have, or I'll be happy to answer questions you may have as well.
Brian, when I was looking at, could you go back to the map that shows the 30-foot setback and then the garage? This one here, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the 13 feet back, would that be from the yellow line, the lot line, or from the road?
From the yellow line.
Oh, so there'll still be room to park a car in the driveway and that, okay.
Correct. Yeah, and the aerial is kind of deceiving because of the angle that the picture is taken from, so the homes will generally look closer to the property line, and the property line that would be as accurate as well. But
yeah,
there'll be separation between that and the edge of pavement for the roadway as well.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I must be missing something here. So the house is not vacant, or the house is vacant? Is that what I'm reading here?
Correct.
But yet, we want to make a garage substantially larger. For what? For what purpose? Seasonal storage. Seasonal storage of what?
I can have the petitioner answer that question specifically for you. They're looking to make the improvement to the garage for resale value for the property, is what was discussed at the public hearing.
Okay, well, what I read in the notes from the public hearing, you're talking about to make the house more marketable and attractive to potential buyers. And I think about that if I was looking to buy a piece of property on the river, I wouldn't want to have a big garage there. I might want to have more of an open piece of land so I could build what I want to build. I see a conflict. It seems to me like whoever owns the property now just wants to build a bigger storage space on the property to probably increase their income from the additional storage space, not really remarket. I mean, that's just the way I read it. Maybe I'm 100.
I would have the petitioner respond to that, give you more direction for why they're looking for the addition.
Could the petitioner come up and answer some of these questions, please?
It's kind of like an alley down there. I mean, the road is more, the garages are all backing up to the road and that, and then the house is in
Facing the
back.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with it, but I want to understand how a vacant house needs a bigger garage.
I think since it's on the river, storing your toys for the water, boats, wave runners, tubes, that kind of stuff.
Let's see what Lori has to say.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Lori Fuchs,
Brian, could you get that? There.
Thanks. 353 Mildred in Cary. And the question is, why do we want to make the garage bigger? We've had several people look at the house, and no one's lived in it for about 4 years. And if you're on the river, you're going to have jet skis, you're going to have a boat, you're going to have a trailer, and you can't leave those out in the yard all winter. So this is the main reason to have the garage larger. And the storage upstairs would be like for canoes or your rafts and other garb that kids like to keep for being on the river.
So you own the property, correct?
I am the power of attorney for that property.
Okay, and the property's for sale.
It will be for sale, yes.
Okay. I totally understand what you just described about the summertime toys. However, I just personally don't agree that the property is more marketable with a big garage on it. To me, the riverfront property is very valuable. I think it's very attractive. Why it hasn't sold in 4 years, I don't know. But garage size by 2/3 of what is already there, to me, makes absolutely no sense unless whoever owns the site just wants to increase their rental income, because I don't think it helps sell the property. That's just my personal opinion.
And you're entitled to that. If you're a river person, you would understand.
I'm not a river person, I'm a lake person, and I understand boating, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. I just don't agree with what's being done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Laurie?
Yes?
Hi, how are you?
There you are.
How did they live before? I mean,
This
poor people.
house, 405 Mildred, has been in the family since 1923. And as people died off, older people took over. All the sons eventually lived out there. And now the one son is not going to be 90 years old in October. And he no longer does the river thing.
Okay.
So trying to sell it, we've had, and we told them, you go ahead and do it, and nobody really wants to take the time and the effort to go and put up a bigger garage.
Okay. Thanks, Laurie.
And did you just get this, so it's not listed right now, but it has been in the past?
I'm sorry, what?
It's not listed for sale right now, but in the past it has been?
No, it's never been listed for sale.
Okay.
We have had, because people know it's been vacant for 4 years.
Sure.
We've had neighbors tell their friends, and they come by and look at
Perfect,
it.
word of mouth?
Yeah.
And you're saying that the feedback you're getting is something like that build?
Right.
And sometimes when people are buying a property, they don't have the resources to do that. They'd rather have it and pay the price and put it in their mortgage.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions? Dave, did you?
No, I like whatever she said. Good job, Ellen.
Trustee Costler, do you have any comments?
No, I don't.
Okay, roll call, please.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Kraus,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes?
Cosler,
Yes.
Dudek,
No.
Cavelli.
Yes.
Thank you. You've got your addition. Thank you very much. Brian will be in touch. Good luck to you. I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 01609-02, granting a conditional use for the storage lot to Boulder Enterprises LLC for the property located at 320 Jandis Road.
So moved. Second. Jinx. So moved.
You got that all, Nate?
Yeah.
Including the jinx? Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Hold your breath.
Thank you. Hi, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor.
Where have you been all night?
2 spots. Proposed this evening is a request, a review of request for conditional use for a storage lot for a property located on Jandis Road. The property, as the board may recall, was previously discussed for, was part of original proposal for rezoning, was the lot next to this lot. This is actually manufacturing. It's not the residential portion of the lot, so it is a separate request than what was previously reviewed by the board. This evening is a proposal from Boulder Enterprises. Their existing business within the village of Cary. They own a property. It's a construction company where they have various equipment and items that are stored outside on their property. They're seeking expansion of their operation as they've outgrown the storage yard that they have in that lot and are looking to construct a storage lot on this facility, which is in general close proximity to their existing location. For the proposal under our zoning ordinances, storage lots require conditional use approval within the manufacturing district. There is no building that's proposed as part of the project, but there would be fencing and landscaping screening around the storage area. Proposed improvements would include a paved driveway entrance to Jandis Road. Paved surface storage area was an item that was discussed during the zoning hearing. A number of residents attended the hearing, and then originally was proposed for a gravel lot. Condition of the CPA's recommendation for approval was that the lot actually be paved. Proposal also requires, condition of approval was a 7-foot fence versus a previously proposed 6-foot wood fence around the perimeter setback along Jandis Road. Also, landscape screening would be included in the plan that would provide additional screening of the storage lot from adjacent properties and the roadway. Again, similar to the previous request, the zoning ordinance provides specific standards that must be reviewed as part of a request for conditional uses, summarized on this slide. When that's substantially diminished or impair values of property within the immediate vicinity, not impede normal orderly development of surrounding property, and not will be consistent with the policies and future land use maps and the village comprehensive plan. Just a summary of those standards. During a public hearing was held on August 11th before the ZPA to review the request, and based off review of documentation and testimony that was provided at that hearing, the ZPA recommended approval of the motion by a vote of 4-2, which was the approval of conditional use for a storage lot for Boulder Enterprises LLC for the property located at 320 Jandis Road, subject to the conditions that are listed in your staff report. And briefly, those conditions were basically provide a 7-foot fence around the perimeter of the storage area, requirements around the fence area, trying to include more conifer type plants, more evergreen. No storage tanks should be stored on the property, and then storage area should utilize a paved surface that complies with the village's regulations of construction and design.
Any questions?
I just have a quick question here, something that I saw, some of the residents brought something up about the gravel storage lot and the potential effect of spills on the local groundwater and the environment. So I fear that might be a question for Eric. Do you see that as any issue?
From
Or either one of you, I don't know,
can answer.
whoever can answer, that's great.
Yeah, from a fuel tank storage is no different than, an auto dealership or whatever. You would have gas tanks that potentially could leak. Any spills would be minimal in nature. So the soils that would be there would be able to absorb or the leaks or would evaporate before there would be an issue. So generally, that's where the condition for no storage tanks would be allowed on the property was more designed to limit larger quantities being stored.
I just want to make sure to answer that.
Any other questions? Did the petitioner, you've signed in, did you have any comments about that?
In terms of landscaping, what are we talking about along the fence?
It's a type A screen within our zoning ordinance is a requirement for a buffer yard between an industrial area and a residential area. So there's a separation with the fence. There's a separation requirement of 20 feet for trees. And I believe the ZPA was looking for more conifer evergreen.
That's what I was kind of thinking too. I mean, that's kind of like the gateway going down into that subdivision. So I mean, I'd like to see it kind of shielded.
Yeah, that was the main discussion that some of the board members had on the ZPA level was providing more evergreen type screening, so you'd have a year-round screen in addition to the fence.
The other thing that I see is that we have a business that is growing within our community, and we're looking to kind of help them grow with where they're at until they get to a point where maybe they have to truly expand to a bigger building. So because it's temporary in nature, I mean, I'd like to support that for our business owner, as long as we can, berm it up and do what we need to do with the conifers.
Brian, this is a lot of impermeable space. We're adding a paved driveway, we're adding a paved storage lot. Number one, I mean, are we within the legal limits of the permeable lot coverage?
Yes.
And number two, I understand about the chemicals, and if that was brought up, was it discussed that it's not a big deal with it leaking and that the gravel would be an adequate solution?
Yeah, it was a discussion at the board level was, the petitioner mentioned their preference would be to use a gravel lot, a gravel surface area. But in order to kind of appease some of the neighbors' concerns that were there as far as groundwater issues, they were willing or open to paving the lot.
But what I'm saying is, didn't we tell them that it's not an issue? Didn't our experts say, we understand your concern, but you really shouldn't be because, the chemicals that are going to be there are going to be minimal and they're not going to be able to leach into the groundwater, based on the amount there?
Yeah, it was a condition of the approval that the ZPA recommended, so it's part of the discussion for that evening, whether, what was presented from a standpoint of it was concern for groundwater contamination or not. It was a concern that was brought up, and that was a way that the petitioner was willing to address that issue, was the pay of the lot, and it was agreeable to that at that hearing.
All right.
Apparently from the aerial photos too that I see right behind it, there's another storage area that they're parking things. Is that, that's gravel or sand or?
That's gravel now,
That's the
yes.
same thing too then, yeah. So, I mean, there's evidence right there you can look at and say it's not an issue.
Yeah, I just, one, I don't want him to have to go through the expense. Number two, if we explained it, and then the board members, did they not believe you, or, I'm trying to.
No, it's certainly a condition that they recommended as part of the approval. Whether this board agrees with that condition or not, that's certainly an item that if the board, village board does not want to require it to be gravel, it could be, remove that condition. But that was part of the ZPA's recommendation was the pave the lot.
Is there
I'll see it.
support here to remove that and make it back to gravel?
Yep.
So.
Wait, I thought it was gravel.
No.
No, it's
No,
asphalt.
asphalt, not.
I'll
keep it
clarify,
gravel.
the original proposal from the petitioner was to utilize a gravel lot. And during the ZPA hearing, there was discussion regarding the soils and contamination and properties around there being unwell. And the condition of the ZPA in their motion was to pave the lot versus use it for a gravel lot. So the storage area would actually be a paved surface for their
Oh, okay. Oh, I read where it was just a driveway. It's going
I
to be
missed
put in
it,
there. Okay, I
Yeah.
missed that part
So,
then.
yeah, in the original staff report, it was just a paved
If
driveway.
anything, I would think the gravel would be better in terms of holding the runoff as opposed to the impervious that's then going to send it down the hill.
Absolutely.
So-
That's
I agree.
So at this time, I will move an amendment to remove the paved storage area and return that back to the original proposal of being a gravel.
I'll second that.
This would be overriding the recommendation of the zoning board.
It is, yeah. That's why I
It's a
asked.
positive
for support.
recommendation.
Oh, a positive recommendation, yeah.
You're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just reminding people. Okay,
Can we have discussion on that for?
sure.
Sure.
Yeah, the only point I want to make is that paving the lot makes things a lot quieter. Gravel makes a lot of homes that are pretty close to that. So I'm not really sure I'm in favor of leaving it gravel.
It's a storage lot though, Jim. It's not an active construction lot. I mean, it's a storage for his extra equipment and for his taller equipment.
I think
It
that was
sounded
one
like
of
it
the
was for winter
concerns that
time,
some of the
too.
residents had at the ZPA meeting was the noise.
But
When
how
was the
often would
petition
stuff be going in and out of there every day?
The petitioner's here.
Yeah.
Intermittently, it all depends.
What do you want?
It all depends on what is going on that week. During the wintertime, we really don't have too much going on, so typically it would be idle, if you would. Maybe stop in once or twice a week. During the working season, if you would, probably once or twice, maybe even a few times a day, if you would. So,
Could you just state your name and address for the record,
Sorry.
please?
Doug Abbey, Boulder Enterprises LLC,
Thank
316
you.
Berry Point Drive.
And again, Jim, it's also during the day and it's not, in the evening when most people are home. I just point that out as a further mitigating point.
Well, yeah, that's the case. I just saw that there were, 5 residents against it?
Yeah.
And I guess this seems sort of like an olive branch to them, and now we're just ignoring it.
Well,
All right, well, we have a motion on the table to amend the ordinance to remove the requirement of a paved and to revert back to a gravel pit. I need a roll call on that.
Before we go to the roll, can I ask a question? And maybe I'm missing, I'm looking 3 or 4 times. You own this property already?
No.
We're first.
This is that same property that the petitioner,
Lori.
Lori Fuchs, was trying to develop another office
That's
building.
what I thought, yeah. Okay. So you have a contingent sale?
Okay, the roll call for
Amending it.
the amended motion.
Chapman?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Cavelli?
No.
Dudek?
No.
Cosler?
No.
Mark?
No.
All right.
Now, going back to the original motion, entertain a motion to approve ordinance 016-09-02, granting the conditional use for the storage lot to Boulder Enterprises LLC for the property located at 320 Jandis Road.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
How about discussion?
We already had the discussion. You changed the motion.
I want more discussion, and I may want to make another amendment. Just pointing it out. Brian, if the village passes this amendment and the village, by granting a permit, changes the swale, which is possible, would the village be liable for anything if we made an error and then that property below, flooded because of the things that we did? And I'm thinking about Sunset and Crest sort of scenarios.
No, from a development standpoint, the property as developed would need to comply with the McHenry County Stormwater Ordinance. So the maximum or amount of lot coverage that they'd be providing on the property would need to comply with those requirements. So we would enforce the regulations as part of the development for the permit process, but we wouldn't be liable for conditions downstream from that standpoint.
Okay, thanks. Being on the County Stormwater Commission, I think that's a great position to be on. So, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
Cosler?
Yes.
Dudek?
No.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve resolution number R16-0904, authorizing the village administrator to execute an engineering design services agreement with Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited, Rosemont, Illinois, in the amount not to exceed $89,250 for work associated with the downtown streetscape project, and authorizing the village administrator to approve a 10% contingency for unforeseen changes in scope for a maximum budget of $98,175.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Where's Brian? Okay.
I can step back. I want to make sure you knew I was here still. So this evening, we have before you the contract for the streetscape design. As the board might recall, earlier in the year, we went through the process of developing a master plan for our downtown streetscaping, which provided us with a roadmap of sorts to guide us in the theme and some of the elements we might want to see as we develop our downtown in the future. The contract before you tonight would give us the ability to take that master plan and develop more detailed design themes and design specifications that will allow us then in future fiscal years, as budget allows, to go out to bid for the different elements in the plan itself. The image on the screen there is the master plan rendering from the original process we started earlier in the year, as well as the character images. So these are the types of things that, and the elements that this contract would actually specify in detail and give us, as I mentioned, bid documents and bid specifications. The limits of the project, based on the discussion from the master plan, would be the core of the downtown, which would be the West Main Street corridor, but based on the feedback we received, extended to the west a bit so that the plan itself would encompass primarily between High Road and Route 14, but also introduce some elements as far west as Seabird Street. The rest of the plan would also develop to a concept level, which could be quickly turn around to bid plans should we want to move forward on those elements of the project. So those segments highlighted in blue, which would be High Road, Cary Street, Spring Street, Janice Road, and also the area currently occupied by the Metro Depot building and our municipal 6-hour parking lot. The scope of services for the contract, as I mentioned, are design plans to the 100% level for the main quarter on West Main Street. And from that set of plans, we could pull out specific elements should we only want to build a certain portion of it. So as an example, we'll have plans in hand for full streetscaping, sidewalk improvements, lighting, and so forth. But if we only had the budget or the desire to do one portion of that project, for example, one intersection or just catenary lighting or just Parkway Tree up lighting, we would have that ability to do so. One of our on-call engineering consultants, and they were selected for this project through the RFQ process for the on-call engineering, but also for their significant experience in streetscape improvement projects. Some of their demonstrated examples of recent and current streetscape work include Algonquin, Batavia, whose River Street project was, actually before I was aware that they designed it, was one of our inspiration projects with the master plan. A couple award-winning projects in Chicago on Lawrence Avenue. They just finished up Huntley's downtown design. Roselle, which has a similar scale and scope to what we're looking at here in Cary. And with that, I can answer any questions.
When do we start?
Yeah, I get a lot of questions from the downtown businesses asking because they heard word of this earlier in the year. And they're excited about, because they're starting to invest some more money into their own businesses too, and they want us to spruce it up a little bit. Does anybody go through Huntley, their downtown Huntley? They redid their downtown square. They're in the process of it. What a difference. What a difference. And businesses are starting to come back in town. Well, I was going to throw this out as we were talking about this, but they buried all their lines underground to really make it more nice looking and more. So just throw that out there. It was very expensive, but just that added to the value of what they were doing. They spent a couple $1 million doing that. I believe they got some grant money to do that. But no, I think it's an exciting opportunity for us. Is there any other questions regarding this?
I know Rick at one time had mentioned like the First Street intersection and that. I was wondering, can we put anything up at that intersection just to kind of make it look like, okay, now we're kind of really coming into downtown, at First Street, come down and then where the marathon is, up there, if we could do something there, have like a crosswalk so those people could maybe cross up there as opposed to down at the big intersection downtown. They could cross up there and then walk down and get on the other side.
We can look at that.
Yeah, incorporate that part of the downtown, that whole feel. I think Rick was going more west on that, weren't you?
Well, yeah, what I had mentioned would be more of a sign, Jeff, not too far from probably where you live, when you're coming from the west, going into downtown, a sign that would say something like, now entering historic area or whatever. But, I'm 100% behind this, but my bigger picture concern is not going to be solved tonight, and that is our whole central business district solution, which, depending on when we're talking about it, really shifts. So to me, I think we have to, as a board, whether it's this one or the next one, has to get our arms around what our central business district solution is, because frankly, I don't think we really have one. This is cosmetic and it'll be a major improvement. I applaud you for bringing it forward, but stuff like this, and I don't think we're there. But I 100% back this.
Okay. Roll call, please.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Cosler?
Yes.
Kraus?
Yes.
Cavelli?
Yes.
Duda?
Yes.
Chapman?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric. Looking forward to it. Now moving up to the administrator's report. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple interesting subjects tonight. Let's try to lighten the mood a minute. Two of them involve taxes and Meyer material, so I'll set those aside for a minute. The first item is the entryway sign project. I wanted to ask, I know there's been some discussion regarding the timeframe of that project in the budget. Director Morimoto and I are prepared to, finalize some specifications for that work. I just wanted to make sure, whether we needed one more dialogue about the timing of that project, phasing of it, et cetera. I want to be clear that, our initial budget is about $100,000 for this work done all at once. And one of the questions that came up was phasing. I would say that you certainly can, if you didn't want to do, say, 6 signs, you could do some in phases. I think you have some economies of scale to do it once. You just approved within budget authority the downtown, improvements that we had discussed in terms of a design. So, we're ready to move forward with that work to get it bid so that probably by spring, you might have an installation. Obviously in the winter, you're not going to be able to put posts in the ground, So the question is, do you want us over the winter to do that bidding and bring you a contract award within this fiscal year?
I do.
Any changes to that, or?
I would like to see the difference between the phasing prices.
Okay. Okay.
I wouldn't mind seeing that too.
Okay.
I didn't hear that. What was it?
The comment that was made, Trustee Kostler, is 2 trustees asked to see it in phases, essentially a phase 1 and a phase 2.
Okay.
I would just be curious what the cost savings would be if we did it all at once versus doing it in phases.
Half and half, kind of.
And that would be essentially a 1-year lag between the phases, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments before we go ahead and do that and bring that back to you? So we'll have a menu option then of that in 2 pieces.
Would be, how we're going to prioritize which ones would be done in the phase 1.
Good question. My answer is that Eric and I will look at that. Obviously, I think you want to make the biggest bang for your buck.
Ideas of what
Yeah,
it
we'll be
should
glad
be,
to talk to you about that. Obviously, we'd like to hit the most visible spots, first, but, we can take any comments. If you want to send any email remarks to me and Eric, we'll be glad to work on those for you. Thank you. Now on taxes, it's more of a reminder. The property tax consideration period for us is typically in the October-November timeframe. And it's important to get this on your radar now because, just to be reminded, but there are levy decisions that we need to make and file before the end of the year. As you know, our fiscal year runs from May 1st through April 30th on an annual basis. Typically, the board has made its property taxing decisions in the fourth quarter of the year. And one of the important critical path items for being able to make a decision, at least as it relates to past practice, has been physically receiving the equalized assessed valuation calculation from typically the township that allows us to understand any new growth in the EAV. So, I again will suggest that we, wait to see that information before a decision is made. Last year, there was a lag on that cost us some time for reasons I still don't understand. But typically, it's my goal to have by the November timeframe these decisions made. And, a couple other things that the staff from the finance team is doing in the background to help support your decision making. And as you know, this is outside your budget cycle. We are now doing a 3-year projection on your operating budget for general fund. We're putting a financial model together that will help you project out personnel costs, commodities, materials, supplies, everything that ties to your general fund budget, which is where typically your property taxation has been, applied to. Look at, these decisions. And then secondly, as the board may recall, we jointly bid with the city of Lake Forest, and I believe, it was at least Lake Forest, an agreement to hire a pension actuary to do the pension actuarial work for the police pension fund that we, the village, are obligated to do. And it was a good change. We've received that draft report. Mary Ventrella and Michael Ducharme from our finance team are reviewing it, the Foster and Foster report in October to a meeting to present that to you well in advance of the tax levy discussions, not to sway you one way or the other, but just so that you understand really the balls and strikes of the pension fund from now an independent outside observer standpoint. Foster and Foster's done a lot of work in the industry, but none for Cary. So you're going to get a very clean new opinion on how to handle some of the pension funding issues over time. So those building blocks are going to be brought to you over the coming meetings with the goal in November to make a property tax decision. Are there any questions about that? Next is Meyer Material Mining update for the benefit of the village board as well as the public. We have not had a full-fledged village board meeting since July 19th. We did have a special meeting for routine business in August. There has been some new development with respect to the Meyer Material item. As the public and the board may recall, in May, through debate and discussion, there had been a vote called on a shall we say, a settlement agreement with Meyer regarding how to address mining and restoration issues to get them completed with their work in Cary and moving on. And at that time, the vote was a tie vote and it did not pass. Truly, in the last 45 days, there's been brought to me from Meyer some feedback regarding an alternative approach that I want to talk about tonight. And so that has been since our July 19th meeting. And it is possible it'll come forward to you at a coming meeting. And I say that's solely up to Meyer Material to bring it to you and file it. But the concept proposal is, how do they respond to what you told them no to by a tie vote in May? And they took away that you want to have mining done as soon as possible. And obviously, as an attachment to that, you want them out of town as soon as possible. And their view is that this is less of a revenue concern and more of how do we get them done and out. So they went back to their corporate folks and had some debate and discussion about that. And a way that they may bring forward to you is to look at essentially there is the ability to lease on a 9-month or 12-month basis a water boat dredge that essentially is more of a vacuum water travel from below the water surface, which has a different business procedure tied to it that can contain some of the dust, and if there, to the extent there is dust, and some of the noise issues that may be present in more of a manual approach like they're taking today. This equipment is leased and not kept locally. There is some similar equipment, not exactly the same, at a mine site in Lake in the Hills that we've looked at. But there is, this equipment would be coming in from out of state, likely Green Bay, Wisconsin, if it was part of a proposal. Essentially what the request would be to have 24-hour mining 6 days a week from March 2017 through mid-December 2017. 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. And there is, as the board recalls, mining through a manual process now, about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday. This would open up mining to 24-hour-a-day service, including Saturday. There are noise requirements upon the manual process now that would stay in place and be applicable to the dredge mining concept if this was brought forward and approved by the board during the day. And there are guidelines that aren't applicable now with respect to code for nighttime mining that would be about 51 decibels. And this would be a procedure that would fall within that requirement. But as some of us, and I would suggest, or I mention, officials meet with me with Meyer to look at this in more detail in the past weeks. We asked a lot of difficult questions of them in terms of how this would work and what the impacts would be and what ways might there be any kind of remediation for the residents in terms of managing the noise, which is the primary concern. I will say that there certainly are some, it's not 0 decibels at night, it's up to 51. I will say that since the meeting that we held with Meyer to review this, when they brought this to us, I have in Green Bay that there is noise equipment being used to try and assess at a certain 350-foot distance or 100-foot distance what decibel levels are. And so I'm just starting to look at that today. But it may be a request that they bring forward to you. The financials are not the priority. However, they model in a similar way what you discussed in May. However, keep in mind that this proposal, if brought to you, would of 2017. Duration June 1 of 2018. And that would be part of the package. So, I mean, I wanted to just bring it up to you tonight, put it on the record to the public. This has come up in the last 45 days. I did receive a question about this Friday from a resident. I spoke openly with him about it from Abbey Wood Drive. And any other residents that have questions, I'm more than happy to answer based on what I have. I don't have a petition. But I could see it being possible that they might ask to come to one of your coming agendas to have you consider waiving the rules and letting them go back through the zoning process back to village board. As you're aware, development projects or projects such as this, there's always a rush for something, right? That whether there has to be or not is up to you. You're the board. I mean, their issue with this is that there's a lead time on basically putting a bid in to get the equipment. So to have it sitting here in March, if this is part of the proposal, they do, from their words, need here in the October, November time period. So I'm just letting you know, I'm glad to answer any questions. I'm continuing to collect facts based on what you asked for and what I feel is needed, and I'll keep you updated. Are there any questions tonight for me?
Will there be a meeting on this prior to it coming to the board?
There can be, with the neighbors, I think is what you're alluding to. Yes, I have suggested that occur. When it was approximately 2 weeks ago, I had a village meeting that was held to initially review this with them. I told them, what we might suggest, and we'd help with a mailing list, et cetera. They're open to that. They put it on hold, though, until they collected this information from Green Bay, which I just received today. So they are willing to host a meeting. And, I mean, as was suggested by the team that met with them, we might attend as an observer. But it'd be their meeting with the neighbors. They're more than willing to do it. Just comes down to the address list for it, in the venue.
Yeah, do you think this is coming before us at our next meeting then?
It's possible, yeah. But I think part of what the feedback is we might prefer a neighborhood meeting before that occurs. And they would take that under advisement if that is your comment. Necessary, and we see this as being a positive. So I would have no problem with that. And if that was, a board request, it was certainly the thought of myself, staff, and the 2 elected officials that were able to meet with me that this would make some sense. They seem willing. It's just a question of when, where.
And what about even surveying the residents over there, the ones that can't make the meeting?
I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that after a meeting is held and the baseline is set, because I don't have a petition. And I mean, I can talk like I did Friday with this resident about what I think, but I don't know because I don't have it in writing. So I would be glad to do some sort of that after a neighborhood meeting. I would tell you that, who knows what folks would say. I don't think there's going to be a lot of residents in that subdivision, if that's where the survey is kept to, that are going to be overly positive about anything about this. However, there's nothing that says we shouldn't ask. And one comment is, it's at least my thought that the impact zone of this might be more shrunken than some of the other approaches. Not that, that's easy for us to discern, but I don't believe that this is 130 homes like what was handled in the homeowners assistance program process. I think this might be 30 homes. Now, there might, by word of mouth, it might make sense to open this up to whoever, because we don't want misinformation to be passed around. But I'm glad to press this forward if this is what you're asking me to do in terms of getting the feedback.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
I agree with Kim, but I'm concerned about the survey piece, only because there was quite a bit that we discussed with them. And I don't know what you could actually, what type of survey question you could create that wouldn't be biased.
Well, I agree with the baseline, establishing that from the meeting, but those that couldn't make it, at least having some information about what a dredge is. I don't think most people even, I didn't know what a dredge was. You know, and proposing it and putting the numbers out there, like Chris said, you know, it could be done by 2017, restoration done by 2018. How do you feel about this, knowing that it's guaranteed as opposed to we don't know right now?
Yeah,
So I think it depends on how you word it.
I agree with, you know, those comments, but I'm thinking to myself, one of the things we talked about at that meeting was the scheduling of when you would be at
Can you
some.
talk in the mic? I think we're having audibility.
One of the items was we talked about when nighttime dredging would be done and where that dredge might be located. So I'm just, again, I'm thinking out loud, Kim, that there was so many elements of the conversation, how you craft a survey question to incorporate all of them, to me would be a challenge. That's all I'm saying. I think the informational piece absolutely is critical. It should be done by Meyer. It should be done for that entire community, not just 30 people. I think everybody should be able to hear and be able to voice an opinion. I'm just concerned about, you know, if the survey question is, do you feel you can support X being done by December 17th, and that's your question, you'll get 100% no, only because you haven't been able to incorporate all the additional information into a simple question.
And we need to be mindful too that it's not a whole year of mining. They don't mine from like November till February, March.
Sure, there's just so many things that they need, and that's been Kim's point when she and I have talked about it continually, is that Meyer needs to educate the entire community, which I 100% agree with.
You can see on the slides in front of you some GIS imaging of the site, which is interesting. You see the dates at the bottom. It's new technology that we have. We're going to go through about 6 slides that will show you some of the history of the site. Now we're getting close to when you approve the agreement. You see where the homeowners are that live adjacent to it. Now you're in agreement mode. You see the size of the lake.
Yeah.
And there you are. So you see in the middle of the lake, the area that's not been mined yet as of June, trying to, you know, close out some of what the initial vision was.
Could you go back to the very first one for?
Wow.
So in 1988, there was no Fox Trails, looks like, right? If I'm interpreting this correctly.
Well, it looks like some of the roads are there.
So they have the roads in, okay.
Road sat there for 10 years, though.
Yeah,
Did
it
they
was,
really?
yeah. It was vacant for a
There's
long
that
time.
10-year gap, so you see 88 and then 99.
So is that, to the best of your, Jeff, you've been here a long, long time. Was that an economic reason why it's? it was
I'm
the-
not
I think it was the builder, because when we first moved here, we lived on English Oaks in Fox Trails, and we were one of the last homes to be developed there. And that was, it was all vacant from before. So I think the developer that was there before had some financial issues, and no one ever picked it up again.
So can you go to the very next one after 88
88.
to 99, huh? So in 99, it looks like now Fox Trails is developed. I guess my question would be, does anybody know, as Fox Trails was being sold, was there anything, what was going on in the property, in the Meyer property, as Fox Trails was being sold? Because I'm thinking if I went to a construction trailer in 1988, I would see nothing but a blank space behind me. But what were people being told? What was going on? Do we have any historic knowledge of that?
Well, when we first moved, we moved in there, I think, 92. And there was a big opposition to the initial mining. I went to a lot of the different meetings that were there. They were all over the place. And they were held at, what's this, Jacobs School in Algonquin, because a lot of that property because it was in Algonquin. That's the property that's being mined right now. It only affected some of the homeowners in Cary. But
Well, the mine is in Algonquin, but the homeowners are in the Algonquin School District 300 in Cary, in the village limits of Cary.
One of the points, I think, is that, do you see that they're tired of mining? I mean, this goes back pre-99. And I mean, we're trying to end the mining. That is what we're trying to do. And yes, there have been some penalty provisions, and I want to point out that since May, they've paid the village $850,000, 450 of which was owed to the village from the original agreement, and 400,000 of which has been penalties, which are, enforcement tools for us, right? But I mean, as we understand, the village board is responsible as fiscal stewards of the village, has to decide what to do with those funds, but the village board would prefer not to have any of the funds. Village board would like this done. And, you see that since pre-99, the residents have dealt with this, and now we're reviewing a proposal that might possibly end mining in December of 2017, understanding that the trade-off is having to analyze in detail what, nighttime dredge mining means. And I mean, there are just, there's been a lot of patience on behalf of the residents. And from the standpoint of what you can control some reasonable guidelines on that evening mining, as unhappy as probably even this board is to consider it. But to be able, as this board could do, to end the process, I mean, that's why I would suggest you give this some serious thought. And whatever offsetting benefits there are to try to hold true to the original agreement, yes, we have the original agreement in place. I understand the lake site elements are vague and difficult to be clear upon. We will enforce, what we can, but certainly to be able to negotiate for even better terms, I think we should at least consider that.
Chris, I only want to make one observation. They sold over 130 homes, even though there was something going on in their backyard. So let's not make light of the fact that there's no surprise here. People bought those homes where people were buying homes, whatever it was, whether it was 1990 or 1995, they sold out an entire community with an unknown product going on in their backyard. I think that's pretty important to recognize. And all we're trying to do, I think, today is to properly memorialize something in terms of restoration, in terms of completion, and in terms of the entire scale. So the folks in Fox Trails may differ from that opinion, but for the first time in years, in fact, since 1988 or 90, a village board is actually trying to do something to properly address any concerns and memorialize things as opposed to leave it open. And I think that's very, very important distinction to make.
Could you go back to 2009? Is that when it was first approved in 2009?
That would be the slide closest to it, the 08, 09 slide.
Okay, well, if you look at 08, go back to 08 then. The homeowners that bought up in the north end of Fox Trails, though, bought with the assumption that Cary owned the property to the west and then along Route 13, which was probably zoned agriculture. Okay, that land wasn't zoned mining. So those homeowners up there bought it thinking it was agriculture behind them, not mining.
How do we know that, Jeff?
Well, how would you not know it? I mean, they probably, maybe they didn't think about asking, but it wasn't being actively mined. That's the Cary property up there. You know, Algonquin was mining down below, so that was an active thing, but we didn't have any control over that because that was Algonquin. The property, Cary changed it in 2009 to mining over the opposition of those homeowners that were vehemently against mining there. They have a legitimate beef with the village for changing that to mining when it had been agricultural, regardless of whether or not they knew it was going to be mined eventually or not.
I'll give you that.
And what we're left with today is trying to decide how to end this. And that is why, you know, I do believe a neighborhood meeting is appropriate. To the extent that we can have a valid survey, I'm glad to do it. But we're trying to end it, and they're now bringing in a proposal to do so. Are you willing to listen to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen to it.
As a matter of fact, Chris, if another trustee or somebody on staff wants to go with me, I plan to go up to Green Bay with Myers making the introduction pass for that so that I can observe the dredge, do some filming, and see what it's like there for the noise at the night time as the dredge is operating. And then
I'd also like to get Trustee Kostler's opinion on this.
I'm struggling a little bit to hear some of this, but my question is, what is the proposed agreement if they get the permission to mine 24/7, 6 days a week? What do we get out of it?
Sure. I mean, I can summarize. I haven't seen anything in writing, but I can summarize for you the high points. Mining begins at a date as soon as weather breaks and date certain, December 15th of 17. As you might understand, if snow hits late November, they're done. This equipment is a separate crew. It's a subcontractor. It comes in, it mines estimation on production that on a 24-hour, 6-day-a-week basis, they will be done no later than December. So that, and once that equipment is gone, it's never coming back. It's of the expense that it can't sit over the winter. It will be done. Standpoint, without negotiation, they've offered additional $900,000 for the mining process in 17. They're willing to sign on that all restoration, some of which will be concurrent with the mining cycle with the dredge mining, all restoration will be completed June 1 of 18. Yes, there will be.
Is that in addition to the fines already, or just that would replace?
That's in addition to, good question, very good question. That is in addition to the fines already. So $850 and $900. And it's my position, regardless of whether you consider this new proposal now, I'm not sure it's a per se better proposal, it's a new proposal. I still believe we need to discuss how mining's going to be handled in October, November of 2016. Because I am of the firm belief that we are not meeting status quo on the current mining process if there's no mining manual in October and November of 2016, which would be not a means to acquire $200,000 more fines, but I think they have a good faith requirement to, until such a time as a new deal is passed, if this board is going to consider it, they ought to keep mining, because to stop mining for whatever the business reason doesn't make any sense to me. So I would say you have $850 in pocket now, possibly another $200,000 of fines for this year, plus the $900, that's their baseline. They would continue to fund the roughly $350,000 marked amount for the multi-use path that the Park District would be the lead agency for, that were laid out in the staff report that was considered as part of the May 2016 proposal. So all the engineering markers would be hit. They would require a little bit more of a phased engineering plan from the village on more finality to those grades, but they verbally said they'd hit them. So you'd have the grades done. You'd essentially be, and I don't know if where you were in May of 16 is where you need to be made whole financially, but you'd be near whole on that, and in theory, mining would be done in December of 17. Now, the trade-off is mining at night, and that's obviously our concern.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I'm of the opinion that there should be a meeting with some of the Fox Trails.
Issues with me setting up the process to get that going?
No?
Nope.
All right,
Sooner the better.
that's all I need. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of the village board.
Thank you. Department head reports, Chief Finland.
Just real quickly, this is our July information, so keep that in mind in regards to context. We saw an increase in traffic stops, both resulting in enforcement action and not resulting in enforcement action, and specifically our arrest for suspended and revoked driver license violations increased, and there was an incremental increase for DUI enforcement. There was a similar activity that was realized in July as compared to June. There was a little bit of a decrease in activity. However, I draw your attention to the fact that we are having some issues related to staffing, and that is we have 2 individuals on workers' comp. We had 1 individual on FMLA at the time, and 1 individual that's currently engaged in the field training program. In regards to traffic crashes, for the month of July, we saw a slight increase, but year-to-date, we're realizing a slight decrease in our traffic crashes. And what we're seeing as it relates to burglaries and thefts, we've seen a significant decrease in burglary and thefts, and interestingly enough, and this is an anomaly, so I don't want this to be something that we expect, but we had no reported burglaries for the month of July. So that is indicative of people not providing opportunities for someone to commit a burglary, locking things up, putting things away, things of that nature. And then because Public Works indicated their Freedom of Information Act in their last update, I figured I'd throw mine on there as well. So we tend to process a lot of Freedom of Information Acts. For the month of July, we processed 10. Overall, year-to-date up to July, it was 100, and we'll probably process somewhere around 200 in a year. Some notable things that we did in July were Speed Awareness Day in conjunction with the Illinois Chiefs of Police Association on July 27th. On July 29th, we had a senior citizen pancake breakfast in conjunction with the Park District. And if you took a look at some of the information that was provided in your packet, you've seen an increase in truck permits. That's because there's an increase in truck permit revenue. That's because there's construction activity and we're issuing truck permits. So that would be it for the statistical information. And just verify some information for Trustee Cavelli. I went quick and checked our municipal code, and we have a parental responsibility both for parents and for people over 21, but it's not a pure social hosting ordinance like you would see like in Lake County, where you had conveyances like boats and buses and things of that nature. They're not covered in that as well. However, there is the police provision in there that if you make a good faith effort to try to, end the party and they don't leave and you call the police, you're not liable for the activity that's occurring because you're calling for assistance. Any questions?
Thank you, Pat. Director Morimoto.
Sorry, getting old.
Yeah.
Quick things. This is what's on our village website. Just a reminder, September 10th. So this Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to have our second electronics recycling event. We do have a few parameters that have been changed in the program, which we've advertised as well. And the Northwest Herald was kind enough to put in their article this weekend, maximum 2 TVs per household, and we will not be accepting the large console and heavy oversized projector TVs. What this does is will enable us to more efficiently process the high demand that we do expect for the program. And the weather's looking like it will hopefully be sunny and cooler, which we're looking at right now, some operational adjustments that should it not be raining or too hot, we might be able to do some more multi-lane outdoor unloading to help us get through the lines even faster. So we're gearing up staff-wise in partnership with Advanced, and we're looking forward to a successful event. Just another thing, traffic pattern-wise, we're going to have signs out as well, directing everybody to come in from the industrial park side, as opposed to being split from 2 different directions. Again, to help get people in and out as efficiently and safely as possible. And then lastly, we're about to put the notices out. So our annual fall curbside brush pickup will begin the first week of October as usual. And this will be Monday, October 3rd, be a multi-week event, just the same as previous cycles. So residents are encouraged, if they're going to use our system, to get their stuff out that first week of October. Take about a week or 2 to complete, but also be aware they have the option for advanced disposal every time with their landscape waste.
Eric, why is the minimum length 4 feet?
For our program, because the smaller branches, because we chip on site as opposed to Advanced picks it up, puts it in the truck, and they haul it away to be chipped. Because we actually take the chipper with us and pick it up as we go. The smaller little pieces actually take us a lot more time manually, and also it's less safe for our guys. The bigger, longer sticks are easier for us to chip right away.
That's good, and I'm sure we'll get asked that, from a resident, so thanks.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Jake, you anything? Really?
He didn't say enough.
Just really quickly, just since our last board meeting, both the Dunkin' Donuts and Burger King's businesses have opened. Both are doing well as well. They're getting a good feedback and good clientele driving through both sites. Talked to Dunkin' Donuts, they're happy with the response that they've had for the new facility and new customers that they've been receiving that either did not go to their previous location or were not aware of their previous location in town. So they're very happy with the establishments. We're still working with both developers on some final fine-tuning with both sites, but those will be finalized here in the coming weeks. This Thursday, just to update for the public and also for the board's knowledge, we are having a series of workshops regarding the Unified Development Ordinance, updates to our subdivision sign and zoning regulations. There's 3 workshops that are scheduled for Thursday. First is a commercial area workshop for property owner, commercial development brokers, developers that are interested in villages regulations that can come out, partake in that discussion. 5 o'clock, we'll have a residential workshop focus on the residential requirements within the village. And then at 7:30, the ZPA will be holding a workshop that discuss the first round of discussion regarding the updates to the zoning ordinance. Our consultant, Halsey Levine Associates, will be leading those discussions and those workshops. But staff will also be present to partake in those as well. Any questions?
I thought I saw somewhere said it was Wednesday.
Wednesday?
I thought I saw that. I was looking into taking off some time.
Should
So
be
it is Thursday?
the 8th. Yes, it'll be Thursday in the afternoon and the evening time periods.
Brian, do we have any timeline commitment on the part of Dunkin' Donuts owner to paint the rear of the facade?
I discussed the issue with the owner. He's looking at other options as far as the painting. He's looking for a LEED certification for the building, and the whiter colored roof is required for one of the certifications that you need. So, painting the back portion of the facade was not something that would void the warranty that you would have in that. But I asked him to look at other options as far as putting possibly a screen or something across the back of it that would make it look more whole as opposed to seeing the back side of the walls. So he's looking at other options for that currently.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Any future agenda items and discussion by the village board?
You know, Mayor, I have a comment. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a future agenda item, but this evening we had 2 petitioners approach us on things where they were contract purchasers of properties. And we've had, I think, a couple of those recently as well. I don't think, I think I would like to ask staff if they could make it more apparent to us that that's the status under which a petitioner is actually approaching the board, as opposed to a board member either having to search through pages of information to find that or ask that question. To me, it makes a much bigger difference when I have a petitioner who owns something and is already invested in the village, asking for something, than somebody coming up here and saying, I would like this, I would like to do this, but I'm only going to do this if you say yes. To me, that's a really critically important distinction that is lacking from our presentations recently.
It's one thing I've actually looked at, possibly modifying our applications versus having a Word or a petition that would be filled out and actually spell out the requirements in it. Having a formal application developed that would spell out the process, and then also have a signature from the applicant and a property owner, if different than who the applicant is, so that it would clarify that information for you up front in one document.
Yeah.
But that's something I'd like to reflect kind of the proposed application in the revolving loan fund that was discussed today, kind of keeping that type of format, but it'd be more consistent, give you more clear direction up front as far as what's being proposed on one document.
Good feedback. Hang on, I need to ask, because I don't quite get that. So how would, knowing that it's not the owner, how would it make your decision different, you know, based on the facts of it's 14 feet versus 13 feet, it's, you know, 10 feet back versus 8 feet? How would the person's goals, you know, change that, the facts about, you know, whether it should be granted or
Yeah,
not?
I mean, that's a good question. In today's 2 items, it wouldn't have, for me personally. In the future, I can't speak to that because I don't know what those requests would be. But there may come a position, or a time rather, where a petitioner comes that's already invested in Cary and is looking for something that I might not support.
Yeah.
But knowing that he or she already is invested in town, I might, you know, I might move my opinion. But neither of those people today had a dime invested in the property they were asking for. They were asking for something, in my mind, that was somewhat unusual. And I think it should be more transparent, that's all.
That's fine.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss pending or imminent litigation, section 120/2C11, and purchase or lease by of real estate, section 120/2C5.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Adjourn. If we can all stay here, we'll get going right away as soon as the room clears.
Thank you.